your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. It is the Friday weekend edition, and it's also the fifth and final day of our Truth Team Week. We'll get into that in just a minute. Around the round table, Kelly Shackelford, Executive President as well as CEO of Chief Counsel at First Liberty Institute. I found a typo there as I was reading it, unfortunately. As well as Liberty McArtor, who is, of course, the host of the Know Why podcast and also, of course, co-host here on Point of View. But I thought very quickly, Collin, I might just remind people that it is our fifth and final day. For people that have been waiting to the last day to put us over, that day has arrived.
It has. This is the final day of Truth Team Week, and such an important day. Really, we need a miracle today. We have a big mountain to climb today, and I just want to encourage you, if you've been waiting for Friday, if you've been waiting for this last moment, if you're like me and you're in Procrastinators Anonymous, today is the day to get involved. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. You can go to pointofview.net. $10 gift, $100 gift, $100 a month. Maybe you could give a larger gift, $2,500 or $5,000. We're going to need gifts of every size today. Really, today is about participation. As many people as possible participating. If you benefit from the ministry of Point of View on a regular basis, we need to hear from you today. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. I want to tell a story real quick. I'll make it short. Yesterday afternoon, we had a lady. She's an 83-year-old widow, and she said, I love what you're doing. I want to be a part. She's on a fixed income. She committed to $35 a month yesterday. If this lady, 83 years old, fixed income, can commit to that, I think most of us can give something. I want to encourage you today to do that. 800-347-5151. So
again, we encourage you to give us that phone call. We have some even family members actually answering the phones right now, so we certainly encourage you to give us a call. Of course, the website is at pointofview.net. Kelly Shackelford, of course, we're going to be talking about civics education, but also I thought it'd be good to mention that next week is another one of those National Religious Liberty Commission events. But I thought for a minute we might hear what happened at the last one.
A wonderful person who I've known for a long time, Kelly Shackelford. Thank you very much. We're here this morning to discuss the grave threats to religious liberty in American schools. And you know what's going on. We all know what's going on. For most of our country's history, the Bible was found in every classroom in the nation. Yet in many schools today, students are instead indoctrinated with anti-religious propaganda, and some are even punished for their religious beliefs, and very, very strongly punished. It's ridiculous. Joining us this morning is Hannah Allen from Honey Grove, Texas. A few years ago, Hannah organized a group of her classmates to pray for an injured peer. The school principal declared that Hannah's generous act of love was prohibited from taking place in front of the other students. Didn't like it. The principal didn't like it. Can you imagine? But Hannah very strongly stood her ground, and she won. Also with us is 12-year-old Shay Encinas from California. Last year in 5th grade, Shay was forced to read a book to a kindergarten student promoting a message of radical gender ideology that is contrary to his religious beliefs and ours.
So again, just a little bit of an introduction of what happened last time you gathered. You're going to be gathering together as well to talk about what's happening in the schools and coaches, and Coach Kennedy will be there. But This has been something that is unprecedented, and you're at the very center of it, aren't you?
It really is neat. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, commission. Yeah, they have lots of commissions. There's never been a religious liberty commission. And most commissions, even that are formed, they report to an agency or department. This commission is very unique. The specific charge of the commission is to report directly to the President of the United States our specific recommendations on how to preserve and advance religious freedom into the future. And so we're having these hearings, and at the end, I mean, I really covet people's prayers for wisdom, because we want things that can be done now that will fix in place things not until the next president, but for 30, 40 years. And there are things that can be done. There are lawsuits that can be brought by the Justice Department that the president can direct. And we just need real wisdom on that. And if you haven't watched it, I encourage people to watch it. The old hearings are up. You can see those. Really powerful testimony. And the example, the little clip you just played, I mean, of all the president came by and gave a speech and also called out a couple of the people who were testifying. They both happen to be our clients in different cases. Hannah and her other friends had heard a friend of theirs was injured. And so she and a few of her friends got together. It was the lunch hour. They were free to pray. And the principal ordered them not to do it, and then said, but in the future, if you're going to do it, you need to do it behind a curtain. So she, stood up, and the result of that was, because they were embarrassed by what they had done to her and these little kids, the superintendent sent a letter to every person in the school district attacking her. I mean, it was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen in my life. And then that was followed by the president mentioning Shay, and that was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. A little 12-year-old boy being called up on the spot to speak with TV cameras and all this stuff all over the place. And they had to do a stool just so you could see his head above the podium, the presidential podium. And he just knocked it out of the park. I mean, he basically said, I was being asked to do something to my kindergarten buddy, to read this book, asking him to question his gender. I can't do that. And he just talked about what he knew and what God, what he knew that God would say, and he was going to be faithful. What a great witness, and what a powerful little testimony that was. So it was really wonderful, and I'd encourage people, go watch it. You can watch it live on Monday as well.
Colin, I was just thinking that that's the kind of thing that you hear on Point of View and nowhere else. Exactly.
You are not going to hear that anywhere else on any of the news stations anywhere. You're going to hear it here on Point of View. And I know you're grateful for what you receive every day from Point of View, because you let us know that. But this week is so important, and this final day is so important. We're $90,000 away from our goal. We're going to count that down today. We really need to hear from everybody. If you've never given before, now's the time to give. If you've already given, now's the time to give. You could give a second gift. Maybe you can increase your monthly giving. Whatever works for you. It's a critical day today. We're really looking for God to do something big today that only He can do, and we need your help in that process. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
When we come back, we're going to talk about civic education. We want to talk to Liberty because, of course, she does the Know Why podcast and can certainly speak to that. And there's a Civics Education Coalition First Liberty's put together. But this is a perfect time for you to give us a call. Don't want to miss any of the content. If you give us a call, it will be a short number, phone call, I should say. And the number is 800-347-5151. Of course, the website is pointofview.net. We need everybody to participate, and if you've been waiting to the end, today has arrived, and we certainly need your help. This is a mountain of financial need that we have probably never had before, so we are counting on you to make that phone call. 800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The federal government owns about a third of America. That statistic may sound absurd if you're living in the East Coast, but it probably sounds about right if you're living in the western part of the U.S. Decades ago, I rode by horseback through the Bob Marshall Wilderness. It took nearly a week to ride through the 1 million acres, camping along the way. I've had some guests on my program suggest that we could pay down our national debt by selling off some federal land. The Secretary of the Interior estimates that it may be worth as much as $200 trillion. John Stossel did an interview with an environmentalist with the John Muir Project and a man who directed the Bureau of Land Management during President Trump's first term. As you might imagine, the environmentalist wants to keep federal land locked up and is concerned with what she calls our biodiversity crisis. John Stossel reminds us that we often have discovered that the government doesn't manage things well. He suggested that selling or leasing some of the land would leave it in better condition. His guest, who ran the BLM, explained that the best forest managers are tribes and states because they've got skin in the game. He also added that governors in Utah and Nevada agree and want the government to release some land that is supposed to be used for multi-use. I applaud John Stossel for doing the interviews. This is a discussion we need to have. We need to ensure that any land sold does not end up in the hands of enemies like China, and we need to provide oversight for the development of federal land that is sold so that it does not pose an environmental threat. Let's have a national discussion and an honest debate of selling some federal land and paying down our national debt. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free booklet on biblical reliability, go to viewpoints.info/biblical reliability. Viewpoints.info/biblical reliability. Restoring America's Godly Heritage. Point of View.
Well, as you know, there are a lot of places you can get information, but there's only a few places that you can get the right information. And I think Point of View brings to the Christian community the insight necessary to understand the issues of our day. And I'd hate to think what our country would look like if we did not have programs like Point of View and what Point of View has been doing for 3 decades. So I, for one, am grateful that we have Point of View out there.
Point of View. Restoring America's Godly Heritage.
Kind comments from Tony Perkins, and we'll get back to some of the content in just a minute. But, Collin, we have a very significant need right before the American people, and in particular right before our listeners here on Point of View.
Yes, so we have $90,000 remaining in our goal for this week of $150,000, $60,000 in so far. So this is one of the biggest hills we've had to climb on a Friday. So we really are asking each and every one of you to get involved at some level. If you can give a $10 gift, that's going to be needed. If you can give a $30 a month gift, that's going to be needed. We're going to need some of those leadership gifts of $2,500 or $5,000 or $10,000 if we're going to get to that $90,000. Let me remind you, if you can't give right now, if you're just in that place, we understand. I want to encourage you, urge you to pray this hour and next for the dollars that are coming in. Maybe you can't give this time around. Maybe you could give a gift in honor of someone else or in the stead of someone else that cannot give this time around. I want to encourage you to be a part in some way, prayer or giving. Pray and ask the Lord what He'd have you to do, and then give that gift. Be obedient. Don't put it off. Today's the day, and the need is great. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. 888-346-5151, or go to pointofview.net. Look for the big banner that says Restoring America's Godly Heritage. Click on that. It just takes a couple of minutes.
Might just mention, too, that banner talks about 250 years because we're coming up to 250 years since the Declaration of Independence, Restoring America's Godly Heritage. And I thought I'd come to you, Liberty, because you do the Know Why podcast. We have a link to that as one of our 3 podcasts that are available. And you're well aware of the fact that there is a real need to provide more civic education to the younger generation.
Oh, absolutely. I was just looking at a poll from July. Only 41% of members of Gen Z express pride in America. When you look at those who identify as Democrats, that drops to 24%. And when you start talking about actual understanding of our founding, then I think the statistics are very low. Not just Gen Z, though. I mean, Senator Tim Kaine, I think, has some things to learn as well. And so one of the things that we talk about on the Know Why podcast is, why do you believe the things you believe? Do you really understand what you believe about religion, about your nation? And we want to have thoughtful conversations that invite people in and spark their curiosity to learn more. And so we cover all kinds of topics. We'll definitely be hitting a lot of constitutional topics and the founding of America this year. And so it's just a real opportunity for people to get involved in educating the young adults who are educating the next generation of children being born right now.
Again, the booklet's out right now is One Nation Under God. The one coming out is the one on the Bill of Rights. We had one on the Federalist Papers and a variety of others. But Kelly, I have posted here the press release. First Liberty Institute partners with America First Policy Institute and the U.S. Department of Education to launch America's 250 Civics Education Coalition.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I mean, obviously, we're coming to the 250th anniversary, and some of the people that are part of the coalition, like Dr. Larry Arnn of Hillsdale and others, I mean, he speaks very passionately about that we're really kind of on at a turning point one way or the other. Are we going to be who our founding documents tried to create, or are we going to go to something totally different? And the problem, the reason we're even in that situation is people aren't being educated. They don't know. How can they love America if they don't even know America? I mean, 71% of the people don't even know the 3 branches of government.
That's amazing.
And so this is the purpose of the project and of the coalition is all these groups and the U.S. Department of Education we're going to do a tour through 50 states. We're going to give awards in every state. It's really going to begin to focus people on the founding documents, what they really say. Like Liberty, as she points out, we've got a U.S. senator who didn't know that our rights come from God. He said that sounded like something that it was terrifying to him to learn this. It sounded like something out of Iran is what he said. It's like, no, it's the Declaration of Independence, which says we were endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights, and that's why government is there to protect those God-given rights. Our rights don't come from the government, but these are things that every American should know, and so there's going to be a real effort on that, and a lot of information is about to be out there for all point of view listeners. They can take certain pieces of the information that they feel very strong or compelling, and they can share that. And people begin to be educated. There's going to be teacher forums. There's going to be all kinds of things happening. So it's a great way to use the 250th anniversary to really begin to turn things around in teaching civics all across our country.
Collin, one of the things that we've been talking about is that even people join with us for the first time get a packet that includes some of those very significant issues that people need to know about.
We've got a great collection, the Bill of Rights, Patriot Preachers, Federalist Papers. There's a great, we call it the Patriot Pack. So if you've never given before and you give, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you a bookmark from Point of View and a letter from Kerby. But it's just our way of saying thank you for being part of Point of View. You benefit all the time. Galatians 6:6 talks about as you are blessed, as the word is delivered to you, for you to respond by giving back to those who teach you and lead you in the way of God's word. This is a great opportunity to do that, and we have a big need today, but we have a bigger God. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, or pointofview.net.
Let me just mention we're going to have Jana Weidler on in just a minute, and she is the Vice President of Stewardship. But as you go to the website, you're going to see some of those links for First Liberty, and I would encourage you to find out what they're doing, find out a little bit more about this idea of Civics Education Coalition, and that would be great material. We will also be talking about whether or not we can get out of this cycle of political violence. We'll talk about whether or not there's a government shutdown and the rest. But Liberty, I know you've got some questions for Jana Weidler, who's on the line now.
Yes, this is Jana. Thanks so much. It's great to talk to you as always. You are always speaking with the wonderful people who do support Point of View. And I was wondering, do you find that they're often surprised when they learn the actual size of the ministry and operations here at Point of View?
Oh, Liberty, yes, they do. I'm in Colorado Springs, and so I'm in a town that has the Navigators and Focus on the Family, and right up the hill is Karis University and Andrew Womack's ministry. So I see these huge buildings with all these cars, and I think, wow, people have no idea that we do everything we do at Point of View with just 11 employees. I mean, we are all cross-trained so that we can fill in for other people if they're sick or on vacation, but it is such a team effort to get things done. But really, this is an incredibly small staff to have for such a big such a big ministry.
Yes, and so the impact, when people give really does go far. And just a little bit of time left, Jana, but you do such a good job, and so many people here on our staff do, of just really doing life with the partners that come alongside us and support Point of View. I was wondering if you could just give us a glimpse into that.
Oh, I would love to. As a matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, Kerby and I were in Georgia, and we met with a man that I have been praying with on the phone for over 2.5 years. He is in remission from his cancer diagnosis, and his wife also has quite a few health issues. And we have been praying for 2.5 years. And when he walked up and I laid eyes on him, it was like meeting a friend, a brother that I had not, seen in quite a while. But we just felt like we knew each other, because we truly take the time to meet our partners, to get to know you guys, to get to know your families and your issues. And it is such a blessing for us to be able to, like you just said, to do life with our partners. You guys are family.
Well, Collin, we are coming to a break, and this is probably one of the best times for people to call, because they don't want to miss out anything that either Kelly or Liberty are going to be saying. So this is a time to make that phone call.
We'd love to see 5 or 10 of you step to the phones or to your computer right now and make the most of this break coming up. If you can't give, pray. If you are not able to give, maybe you could give a gift on behalf of somebody else if you've got the means. And we're going to need, again, some of those large gifts today, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 to get to that goal of $90,000. Everybody doing something. If you're ministered to by this organization on a daily basis, and they've been doing it for years, you've never given, today's the day. 800-347-5151.
Of course, at any time, you can go to the website at pointofview.net. Let's get 5 or 10 phone calls right now during the break, and we'll be back right after this.
Well, we have arrived. Today is the final day to help Point of View reach our Truth Team Week goal. When you join the Truth Team, your impact on America is just beginning. And that's because when you support Point of View, you're helping anchor people to a foundation of truth that will keep them unshakable for generations. When one person understands and applies a biblical worldview, they pass it on to their children, and then they pass it on. And that's why our great nation has preserved liberty for nearly 250 years. Of course, somewhere along the way, people unmoored themselves from the anchor of biblical truth, and now new generations are floundering in chaos, but they are seeking. Help them find the truth again. Act now, I urge you. Join the Truth Team at pointofview.net or call 1-800-347-5151, pointofview.net, and 1-800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.